Hello everybody and welcome back to VuDivulged. I'm Anthony Polkowski, the General Manager, and on today's Distinguished Speaker Series we have Jeremy Michealis. He is currently a special agent for the FBI, and during his presentation he talks about his journey in becoming an FBI agent and also about the FBI agent hiring process. I hope you enjoy his presentation.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. We have another distinguished speaker. His name is Jeremy Michealis. He's an FBI agent. He's been an FBI agent for 16 years. He is currently the applicant coordinator and recruiter for the Indianapolis division. He's also a member of the SWAT team. He's going to talk to you today a little bit about his job, what he does, and why he chose the position that he's in today. So if everyone could just give your undivided attention to him. Thank you.
Listen to me. That's what we're saying. Excellent. So it's good to be with you today, obviously. I'm here for you. I want to provide benefit to you in any way that I can. So as I'm speaking today, I have something of a spiel that I have prepared, and that I'm used to talking about. But at any point, if you'd like to ask questions, if you'd like to direct where I go, at any point, obviously periodically I'll ask if there are any questions, but if something just is destroying you with curiosity, just throw your hand up and we'll hit it, right? So this is, I consider this fairly informal, this presentation. So please, like I said, you guys drive me in terms of what I talk about and what I provide for you. So that said, I will provide something of a little more background on kind of how I came to this position. When I talk to folks in your station in life, right, college or soon to be entering the professional world, I do get a number of common questions. And one of the most common questions I get is, how do I become an FBI agent? Should that be my goal? Or, another position in the FBI, what does the FBI do? Some of the minutiae of that. So I do like to talk a little bit about myself. This isn't my chance to be narcissistic and talk about all the things I've done, but it just kind of gives you an idea of my path into the position that I'm currently in. So I am not from Indianapolis. I'm a transplant. I've been here for about I was assigned here to headquarters office in Indianapolis out of the academy about 16 years ago. So I'm becoming a Hoosier every single day that goes by. I don't know if I can say that at Vincennes University. I said that at Purdue University. I almost got lynched on the way out the door. So yeah, you can't say you're a Hoosier at Purdue, but you know what I mean when I say a Hoosier, somebody who lives in Indiana. So I'm from Utah originally. Grew up in a fairly normal childhood. I went to Utah State University. Didn't really know what I wanted to do. I don't know if everybody in this room knows exactly where their career is going to take them. When I started college, I really didn't have a clear-cut path of what was next. So I picked business. I figured it was a nice broad-based discipline. I could do a lot with that, so I thought. So I was studying business, kind of enjoying college as we often do. Getting to be near my junior, almost my senior year, still didn't really have a clear picture of what I wanted to do. I was a big fan of a television show that was on at the time. This is the embarrassing part of my little speech here. Does anybody know about the show called The X-Files? I realize that's dated, right? So excellent. So I'm not that old apparently. So X-Files, for those of you who don't know, is a show about two FBI agents who investigate the paranormal, right? I was a big fan of this show. No, I did not think the FBI actually did that. I'm not that naive. But I watched the show, a lot. And as I did, I just watched what the FBI agents did. They seemed to do things that really appealed to me. One thing that terrifies me the most, and I've learned this already up to that point in my life, is I hate being in the same place for a long time doing the same thing. I can't do that. Some people have a personality for that, I don't. So watching the agents, I watched them travel around, do interviews, watch them do searches, make arrests, do all the things that FBI agents do. Piqued my interest. Obviously I didn't say I want to be Mulder or Scully, as the case may be. But it piqued my interest, so I started doing actual research. I started getting books, what's it like to be an FBI agent, kind of see if anything translated to real world from that. And I was happy to see that a lot of it does. I mean, a lot of the things that they do, we do, except for without the kind of craziness to it. So I said, this may be for me. Now, here's the catch, and I'll talk about this as I move through this discussion. You cannot graduate college and just walk into the FBI Academy and become an FBI agent. agent. You have to have some professional work experience after college to do that. There are positions in the FBI that you can come right out of college and get. The agent position isn't one of them. So I began to think, what can I do that might prepare me for this position? So I had never been interested in the military. Anybody, any ROTC here? Anybody in the military enlisted? Okay, kudos to you, salute. I wasn't gonna do that. You're crazy if you think I was gonna join the military. It just wasn't my thing. But once I kind of got this little seed planted in my head of the FBI, suddenly the military started to look a little more appealing to me. My grandpa died in World War II flying a B-17 bomber. My dad was in, so there was some family history there. I decided, you know what, this actually might work, that I might be able to kind of scratch that itch and get the skill set I need to maybe move into this, forward into this career. So that's what I did. I ended up graduating college. I walked into the recruiter's office and I enlisted in the Army. For the military folks in the room, say, why did you enlist in the Army if you had a college degree? At the time, I don't think it's changed, but at the time, if you wanted to pick your career path, you had to enlist. If you went through ROTC or Officer Candidate School, they would assign you a branch, and it was kind of a, hopefully I get intel. Not only did I want the intel branch, I wanted to learn a language. I had learned Portuguese because I lived in Brazil during college for a while. Any Portuguese speakers in here? I always like to ask, okay? So anyway, I speak Portuguese, so I realized I'm pretty good at learning languages. So I said, I want you to send me to the Advanced Language Institute in Monterey, California, so I can learn a language. So I had to enlist. So I enlisted. I either have the best luck or the worst luck in the world because I enlisted in 2000, June of 2000. I was sent to the Defense Language Institute in sunny Monterey, California. I was assigned Arabic. It's a 2-year course. Do a little bit of math. I'm sitting there wearing an Army uniform, learning Arabic when 9/11 happened. It was like, great. So, as you might imagine, I graduated from that school, did my intelligence training, and then that was it. It was war for me. So I deployed to Iraq for 1 year and 3 months as an interrogator, human intelligence specialist. I deployed to Afghanistan, Jordan, Qatar, so I got it all, right? But in doing that, had some good experiences, of course, but it really taught me a lot of skills that I would need to eventually become an FBI agent. So 2005, I had a 5-year hitch I'd signed up for. 2005, I was getting out of the Army. Had a friend that worked for the National Security Agency. He kind of twisted my arm, convinced me to come and work for them for a while. I didn't know what they did really. I mean, I'd seen what's that, Enemy at the Gate? No, Enemy of the State or whatever. So I kind of had some idea, but so I figured, you know what, this guy's offered me the job, I'll give it a shot. But I found myself in my nightmare. I was sitting at a desk all day long, analyzing languages and intelligence and things like that. It's interesting, but it wasn't for me. So after about 1.5 years at the NSA, I applied to the FBI and became an FBI agent. So as you know from my brief bio, I was assigned here to Indianapolis where I worked on the Joint Terrorism Task Force. It would surprise a lot of people to know that we do have terrorism cases in Indiana. We actually have a lot of terrorism cases in Indiana. The good news is there are multiple different types of terrorism investigations. You have radicalizers, the people that are trying to convince other people to go do the dirty work for them. You have the financiers, you have aspirational folks that kind of talk a big game, they're probably not going to come to much, and then you have the actual, what we call trigger pullers, people that are trying to go conduct terrorist acts. So you don't hear about it very much in Indiana. Thankfully, we don't do a lot of arrests with terrorism, but we've had some pretty significant cases over the years. We've stopped a few people from going to fight with ISIS. We've stopped some guys from selling ghost guns to who they thought was ISIS. It was us. But so these are some of the cases that we've investigated in Indiana in the terrorism realm. So, and again, I've been on the SWAT team for about 15 years. Led the team for about 5 years, which is a really good opportunity to be able to command folks in a tactical environment and also train them and help them be prepared for everything that entails. So again, just a little bit of history. I know this isn't about me per se, but that was my path, to becoming an FBI agent. There's an expression, all roads lead to Rome, right? There are a number of, I would say almost countless paths and ways that you can enter the FBI as an FBI agent. I could line up 10 agents across the front of this room, and we would all have different stories. One of my favorite stories is one of my closest friends. He was actually on the SWAT team with me. He worked as an accountant for Deloitte, had a secretary, had a corner suite, had a really good cushy job. He decided he wanted what the FBI had to offer. So he became an FBI agent. He got on the SWAT team with me, and within a year or two, he was chosen to become a sniper, trained to be a sniper. So he went from an accountant to a FBI SWAT sniper. So there really is, it's amazing so with the way where some of these career paths can take you. So what does the FBI do? Hopefully you have some idea. A lot of confusion sometimes between what the FBI, state police, local police, everybody else does. So in a nutshell, the FBI, a lot of it's a jurisdictional thing. For the FBI, kind of our mission statement is we investigate violations of federal law, threats to national security. That's kind of broken down in the simplest term. So let's say there are certain things we care about and we have the powers to arrest, investigate, things like that, and there's certain ones that we don't. Do you know how many times I wish I have lights, I have sirens on my car. Do you know how many times I wish I could pull somebody over that cuts me off or does all those? Can't do it. I have zero jurisdiction to pull somebody over and give them a ticket. We'd have a long debate whether marijuana should be legalized, shouldn't be legalized, whatever. I don't have the legal authority. If I see you smoking marijuana, I will say from a personal note, I really don't care. I have bigger things to worry about than that. I don't have the jurisdiction to arrest you for a misdemeanor violation like that. So that's just a kind of a simple distinction between some of the things that we don't do. What we do, so anything that becomes a violation of federal law, we of course work very closely with our state and local partners. We have task forces. Just a very brief conversation with your professor. Came to find out that he started one of the most important task forces we have up in the north side of Indiana, the Gang Response Investigative Task Force. They are very closely partnered with state and local partners, so we do a lot of gangs, drugs, violent crime type stuff. And there are methods to kind of make something become a federal case through those partnerships. So murder, for example, though, very few of us investigate. We don't have a lot of homicide detectives. I get emails all the time. I want to be an FBI agent so I can investigate homicide. Well, you should go be a homicide detective at IMPD or whatever. So we, of course, will be involved in that stuff if it becomes, serial killer type things or some extenuating circumstances. If it crosses state lines, there's a good chance the FBI could become involved. So that's one of those major distinctions. We investigate a host of different crimes. I will kind of break them down into 5 major types of categories of crime that we investigate. Our bread and butter, of course, is counterterrorism. We are statutorily responsible for terrorism investigations. Again, we do that with close partnerships with our law enforcement partners. But terrorism is really our thing. You have counterintelligence. That is, we try to stop people from spying, whether that be foreign countries, espionage, or trade secrets, theft, things like that. We do cyber crimes, whether there's the national security aspect, once again, hacking type stuff, or there's also the criminal side, child pornography, stuff like that. We do the criminal, which encompasses a lot of different things that you see. That's where they like making movies about terrorism and about the criminal stuff, the bank robberies, the serial killers, the white collar crime, embezzlement, stuff like that, Wolf of Wall Street type stuff. And then we have human. It's human intelligence. So we have people that are dedicated to basically, they specialize in recruiting sources. You want to call them informants, witnesses, whatever the case may be, to be able to gather information to support and investigate the cases. So those are kind of the big specialties that we have. So just again, a little bit about the FBI. We have 56 field offices across the United States. And each of those field offices will have an associated a group of resident agencies. So Indianapolis, where I work, is in Castleton headquarters in Indianapolis. We also have RAs starting from the north. We have Merrillville, South Bend, Fort Wayne, Muncie, Terre Haute, New Albany, and Evansville. So, and those RAs may have a couple of agents, or you may have a couple dozen agents. The Merrillville office, for example, is quite large, has a lot of agents up there. In addition to our CONUS, Continental United States presence, we also have a strong overseas presence. We have it ebbs and flows, about 63 international offices called legal attaches. We call them legats for short. So in those offices, you have people that live there permanently with their families in some cases. If you're in the Baghdad, legat, or in Afghanistan, you're not going to have your family with you. But for example, I mentioned I speak Portuguese. I've gone down to Brazil several times as an assistant legal attaché on a temporary basis. We have people there that, like I said, their families, wives, children live there. They go to English-speaking schools, and that's their life. So, and that's a lot of fun. I had a really good time going down there. If time allows, I'll speak briefly to that. So, that's the FBI. Before I begin, what I'll do next is start talking about how you get into the FBI, the type of positions available. Before I do, any burning questions? No pressure. Okay, all right, let those percolate, simmer, whatever. So, talk about what the FBI does, where we are, who are we? So there are about 37,000 employees in the FBI all around the world. About 14,000 of those are FBI special agents, like myself. The guns, badges, kind of what you see on TV a lot. In addition to that, we have the rest, so 23,000-ish, are professional support staff. And that group, if you will, could be broken down further into kind of two major, and again, this is a very broad brush, two major groups. You have the professional staff that are still very much involved with the investigative process. So we have intelligence analysts, we have forensic accountants, we have digital forensic experts that sit right next to agents in the squad area. They work the cases. They're kind of like agents, but without the arrest powers and the guns and the expectation that they'll go out and be the tip of the spear, right? But they are absolutely part of the investigative process. And then we have thousands of people that they could just as easily work for Google or Facebook as they do for us. They work the HR, so they do processing, hiring, employment processing. They do everything else you can think of. Not forensic accountants, regular accountants, the ones that pay the bills. We have financial managers that all their job is just to budget for the office, make sure we have enough computer paper, right? Printer paper, stuff like that. So those are kind of the three areas you could think of when you think of who works for the FBI and if you were ever interested in what you might want to do. So if you aren't, you don't want to be a SWAT FBI agent, maybe you want to be an intelligence analyst, or maybe you want to be an accountant, and I'm not taking anything away from the people that aren't directly involved in the investigations. Everybody that this paycheck says FBI on it actually doesn't say FBI on it, it says something else, but every paycheck, everyone who works for the FBI contributes to that mission. So you can go home at the end of the day if this is what makes you happy, and you can feel like I have contributed to the success of this mission. So that's who we are. Now, how do you get into the FBI? Almost every position does require a college degree, which, hey, good luck, you're sitting in a college. So you're already off to the races with that. So there are certain positions. The first thing I have to talk about is the internship. We do have an internship. A lot of people are interested in that. It is open right now to apply. This is a major change for us. In the past, it used to be open in August, September timeframe, just to give them a little more time for processing and background. They have moved that forward to now. So if you're interested in the FBI internship, go to fbijobs.gov, click on the internship button, and do some research on that. The internship is it's a very good experience. When you apply, you do have to have 3.0 GPA, some of those other things. It's very competitive. One of my jobs as a applicant coordinator recruiter is to kind of cheer people on, but also manage expectations. So extremely competitive. So if you apply and don't get it, don't think it's not you, it's me, right? It's not. It is stupidly competitive, but give it a shot. Once you apply, it's pretty straightforward on how to do so, and I'm not going to get into the minutiae. We'll tell you how to do that. Should you get it, you then go through a background investigation, just like everybody else that works for the government, or at least for the FBI, and you get a top secret security clearance. At that point, when you apply, you list a number of offices that you would be willing to work at. So if you could work in the Indianapolis office, you put that. If you have an uncle that lives in DC you could live with for the summer, you could put DC. So if you're selected for the office, it's a summer internship, full-time, 40 hours a week. It's paid internship at the GS5 level, which I think translates to like $30,000, $40,000 a year for the few months. You wouldn't get that much for the few months that you're working. And then once you've completed that in the summer, you are offered, if you do a good job, you're offered the opportunity to work 16 hours a month throughout the school year, if the logistics allow for you to do that. So that may be your first contact with the FBI in terms of looking for a position. In addition to that, we have a number of entry-level positions as well. So You can get on FBIjobs.gov at any time, click on apply now, and you can see a list of all the positions that might currently be open. A lot of data analysis positions, management program analyst positions. We have what's called an operational support technician. It's basically kind of a secretarial level position. It's very much entry level. So, a lot of filing, some phone answering, things like that. But it's a chance to get your foot in the door to the FBI. There's a kind of a little trick to getting into the FBI, if you will. If you're not looking for the agent side especially, if you're interested in that support side, if you go to FBIjobs.gov right now and click apply now, you will see about 110 positions available. The catch is only about 15 of those are open to the general public. So if you see a position in those 15 that interests you, it may not be your dream job, don't rule it out, because if you were to take that position, you've just been given the secret handshake, and now you're eligible to apply for all those other positions that are in the FBI as well. So just something to think about. So that's a possibility too, right out of college. Moving on to, so my role is a special agent applicant coordinator. So that's really what I am expected to do. So to become an FBI agent, how do you do that? There are minimum requirements. They're literally kind of pulling back the curtain. The people at headquarters, if you apply and they see these two things, you will be allowed to begin the process. Those two things, college degree and 2 years of professional work experience. That is minimum. That will get the gears rolling in the application process. That will not turn you into an FBI agent. I'll explain why in a second. What do I mean by professional work experience? That needs to be a job that you had to have a college degree to get. So all the internships you may be doing, part-time jobs, those are all great, and hopefully you're getting really good professional experiences out of those, but the Bureau doesn't start the clock on your qualification until you've got that degree in hand and you can show that the job you get requires that degree. Here's where I'm going to burst some bubbles now. Statistically, of the 25, it varies. Sometimes it'll be 20,000, sometimes it'll be 30,000. Of the 25,000 people that apply to be an FBI agent every year, between 4 and 5% will make it through the process. We're not trying to not let people in, it's just a competitive process. There's a lot of things that you have to do right, as you might imagine. There's some things you can't have done wrong. You can imagine what those might be. But yeah, bare minimum, get the experience, get the college degree, and you'll begin the process. So at this point, I'm going to go through very briefly what the application process is to become an FBI, or the testing process is to become an FBI, to just give you an idea. So you got the degree, you got the 2 years, headquarters says, sure, go. You go to what's called the phase 1 test. It's kind of almost like an SAT test, but kind of on steroids. If you're bored, you can go to FBIjobs.gov, and there's our example test of what that is like. It involves logic-based reasoning, situational awareness. For example, they'll put up a whole bunch of shapes, patterns, and say what pattern would come next in this situation. You'll have statements. If you're standing at the grocery store, I don't know why, this is actually an example, but it's the craziest. If you're standing at a grocery store and someone says to you that the bananas are more expensive than strawberries, the strawberries are cheaper than grapefruit, grapefruits are more expensive, then there will be statements on the right that are true based on all the nonsense that you just heard. You have to be able to use your logic-based reasoning to say, well, if strawberries are cheaper than bananas and bananas are cheaper than oranges, but more expensive than pineapples, then pineapples are cheaper than bananas. Does that make sense? So it kind of gets the wheels turning. Situational awareness. So one of the reasons not everybody becomes an FBI agent, I gotta put this, this is an old movie. This is actually kind of when I was a very young child, I saw this Police Academy. Anybody remember the character Tackleberry? Like with guns, the guy that's like over the top. FBI doesn't need that. I don't want the guy. So one of the examples might be, you're at a gas station, you're buying soda, whatever. Somebody comes in to rob a place, what do? You have multiple choice questions. One of them might be tackle him and choke him out with my shoelaces. The other one would be run away, whatever. And then you pick what you think the most appropriate reaction would be. Appropriate reaction might be something like, I would stay calm, pay attention to everything that's happening, not aggravate the situation, and be a good witness afterwards. Sounds like a pretty good reaction, right? Questions like that to see if you are, have the kind of the mindset to potentially be an FBI agent. If you pass this phase 1 test, it's about a 50% failure rate on that test right out the gate. So half the people that take it pass it, and they move on to the process. They come to me for an information session, kind of a meet and greet. I do kind of what I'm doing now, except I dig into the weeds a little deeper in terms of the good, the bad, the ugly of being in the FBI, what it takes to get through the process. So, including talking about the steps moving forward. I'll have a conversation with them, and after we do that, they'll be expected to take and pass a physical fitness test. To be an FBI agent, you do have to be fit. So if that's something that you envision doing in the future, start thinking about that. Fitness, it's doable, but it usually requires time and intensity. People talk, if you're in the fitness world, people talk about time and intensity increase, is what leads to improvement in your physical fitness. So you're expected to take and pass this fit test. The fit test is composed of sit-ups, a 300-meter sprint, push-ups, and a 1.5 mile run. So it sounds simple. It's not. It's actually fairly challenging. You have to be in pretty good shape to do it. The way it works is every event has up to 10 points that you can get. And this is where it's going to sound easy, because I just gave you 4 events, 10 points each one, 40 points possible. You only need 12 points to pass this test. Sounds easy, right? Again, it's surprisingly harder than you'd think. So to get 1 point in push-ups, for example, they do it still by gender for the time being. So for guys, you'd have to do like 32 push-ups in less than a minute to get 1 point. So just not too many, but I mean, they're good push-ups. They're like really good form, military style type push-ups. Sit-ups, you have to do like 40 to get a point. The sprint, you have to do 300 meters in less than 52 seconds, 1 point, and the 1.5 mile run, you get 12:24, which is pretty slow. That's about an 8-minute pace, gets you a point. So with that, you only get 4 points, so you need to do a lot more than that. But so it is pretty challenging, and the events are all done one after the other in succession. So it does get to be quite tiring by the time you're done with it. So I administer that fit test. I'll actually be administering one next week. I do one every couple weeks, and I would say if I have 4 people come out lately, the average has gone down for people being able to pass those. It used to be about 50% when I started doing this about 5 years ago. I don't know what's happening, but now it's about 1 in 4 people will pass. The good news is it's not a one and done situation. You have unlimited tries over the course of a year. We're a very friendly bureau now. It used to be 3 tries and then you were done. So we got rid of that. You can, largely because of what the kind of realities we're facing. So you have up to a year to get through that process. So it happens all the time. People come out, they get kind of smacked in the face with how hard the test is. They kind of catch their breath, and then we have a conversation about what they can do to improve and get forward and move through that. Sadly, I have a lot of people in the dozens and dozens who spend a year doing this in their fitness level and never pass the test, and they go away because you have to be able to pass those fit tests to get into the academy, and then absolutely to graduate from the academy. Once you pass the fit test, you go to the phase 2 test. Phase 2 test is there's a 2-part test. You have a written portion and you have an interview, panel interview. The written portion is pretty cut and dry. You go to a testing center, sit in front of a computer. You're given two proposals. Do you think we should build this or should we build this? You're given a whole bunch of supporting data on each of the projects. Then you're expected to make a decision and defend that decision in a written product. Does that sound like something you might be asked to do right now in a college paper, right? that's the thing. It's like, this is, what are we defending in our thesis? So it's pretty cut and dry, not easy. You have to, hopefully you're learning how to do that well here, where you state your argument and then you use your supporting data, and structure the thing in a very nice format and then tie it up with a bow. So get good at that. The real trick is the panel interview. You'll sit in front of a panel of 3 special agents. We don't intend for it to be intimidating, but it's gonna be. I mean, you walk into a room, you may be at a field office, you may be at a hotel. We're doing testing in Chicago in a couple of weeks at the Palmer House Hilton. So we put you up in a very nice hotel for the evening, let you get a good night's rest, and the next morning we put you in a room with 3 agents, and then we ask you questions. They're performance-based behavioral questions, about a dozen of them. Tell me about a time when you, right? And that's when you are expected to use all of the experiences you've gathered in your life to answer these questions. Hopefully, in these questions, you will demonstrate your skill sets, right? You'll all the amazing things that you've done. So this is where the rubber meets the road. Back up with me. I talked about bare minimums having a degree and 2 years of professional work experience. When you're sitting in that room with 3 agents and they said, tell me about a time when, that's when that 2 years better have been a very intense 2 years of professional experience, right? Because That's sad, not sad truth, but the truth is it's very hard in your first couple of years on the job to get really good experiences. You're the new person, right? So it's hard to get the authority to be in charge of do project management, to be give leadership opportunities, to be given opportunities to demonstrate your initiative and some of those things. This is where I always caution people all the time. Oh, you have to be 23 too. All the time I get 23-year-olds that say, I've got 2 years, I got a college degree, let's do this. And I always I have to tell them, be careful. Statistically, we're the FBI, we track all of our statistics. One person in 10 years that's 23 has gone to the FBI Academy. I don't know what they did. I'd say cure cancer, but it hasn't happened yet. But they must have done something pretty freaking amazing. So it just doesn't happen. It's not an ageism thing. It's just, like I said, it takes that experience to get to be able to speak to that. And then as we move along, when you start to get to 26, 27, you start to see greater success, in terms of statistically. The average age of a new agent trainee in the FBI Academy is 30, 31. So I was 32 when I came in. So it's very much kind of a mid-career progression. Like, with exception though, I had a bunch of 25-year-olds in my class. I had a bunch of 36 turned 37 a week after they got there in my class. 37 is the cutoff. So you have that spectrum. And you see varying levels of success in those ages. So what advice do I have for you now that you didn't ask for? We have what are called FBI core competencies. These are the factors we consider, the skills we look for when we're testing, of course, in this phase 2 interview, for example. More importantly though, that's what you need to have to be able to do the job. If you go to FBIjobs.gov or just Google FBI core competencies, you can find these. They're pretty common sense. Collaboration, communication, your ability to speak, write, in professional documentation. We have flexibility and adaptability. Our days can be predictable, they're not always predictable. So how good are you at thinking on your feet and being flexible? Initiative, are you the person, the consummate self-starter? If you're this is me, if you're in a consulate in Sao Paulo, Brazil, in the basement of a consulate building with no other FBI agents for thousands of miles, can you do what needs to be done with nobody watching? The leadership, have you had a chance to lead a team, and provide direction, provide motivation, inspiration, all those types of things. Problem solving and judgment. When you are faced with a problem, are you the person that has to turn and be like, how do I do it? How do I do it? Once again, using my same example, I can't turn to somebody in Brazil and say, how do I do it? I've got to be able to come up with that solution. And do I just throw something at the wall and see if it sticks? Or do I have a process I think about, that I draw from to come up with an idea? Do I base decisions on previous experiences? Do I look for policy manuals? Do I look for reference material? Here's a tip. When you say I'd Google something, don't say I'd Google something, say I'd conduct extensive research and try to find some supporting documentation. That sounds way better than I'd Google something. And finally, organization and planning. Same thing. We're going to have, as an agent, you work cases, as an agent, analyst, whatever, you work cases or you have projects. These cases, in terrorism, you might have 2 or 3 complex cases. If they're international terrorism, I've had cases that lasted for 1.5 years, 2 years before I either closed them or we had the arrest. If you're working drugs and gangs, you might have 30 cases that you have to keep track of, manage, and ensure that you're moving things forward and they're giving appropriate attention. How do I do that? Do I just, whatever comes next on my desk, I do it? Or do I have a system in place? If I were to ask you what tools and methods to use to stay organized and plan, what do you say? I know a lot of people say Post-its. That's fine, if you have a really good Post-it system. For me, it's Outlook calendar. If it's not on my Outlook calendar to include at this meeting today, I would be sitting there happy as a pig, and you know what? I would not be here if it weren't on my Outlook calendar. That's my own method for organization and making sure I'm conducting the things I need to do. So, but these are the competencies that we're looking for. So I would encourage you now, whether it be FBI core competencies or some other whiz-bang list of skill sets that you've come across in your classes, so I have, on a personal note, I have two kids. I've been married for 24 years. You can tell by the salt in my beard. I have a daughter at the aforementioned Purdue. I have a son in high school that is not sure what he's doing yet. I took these competencies and I laminated them and I stuck them to their walls. And I said, you should look at these once in a while. And they never looked at them again, of course, but I had to try. And I'm not trying to be condescending, pretend like I'm your dad, but I would pick a list of these things. And occasionally I would look and say, if this guy stood in front of me and said, tell me about a time when you demonstrated initiative, what would my answer be? Do I have one? I mean, think about it right now if you'd like. Like, what would my answer be if I said, when I demonstrated initiative? If you don't have an answer, look for one. If you have an answer but it's not a good one, get a better one. If you have a good example, get good at explaining it, right? One of the most important things in our interview process is your ability to talk about how great you are, right? Two different examples. So I'll try to keep this very quick. For many years, one of my collateral duties was I was the airport liaison agent. So in addition to investigating terrorism and being on the SWAT team, I'm also a medic for the SWAT team. Any violation that happened in the skies over in Indiana or happened to any airport in Indiana, it came to me. I was the guy that investigated. When the Super Bowl came to Indianapolis in 2012, ages ago, I got an email that said, you are the subcommittee chairman for the aviation airspace portion of the Super Bowl, which meant I had to protect the Super Bowl from anything that could happen in the skies. I'd never done that before. So this is a very good story for me where I can talk about my initiative, I can talk about my problem solving skills. I can do that in one of two ways. I can say, I got this email saying I was in charge of the Super Bowl aviation airspace, so I did everything I could and I made sure the airspace was secure. It took a lot of planning, a lot of organization, I had to collaborate a lot, and I made it happen. What did I tell you? I've told you nothing about what I did to do that, right? What I should have done is using like a situation, action, result format. I should have said, this is a situation, I have to make sure nobody flies a plane into Lucas Oil Stadium or does anything else that involves the airspace. To do that, I had monthly, I set up a subcommittee. I invited all of the 3-letter agencies and 4-letter and sometimes 5-letter agencies around in Indiana to come to those, to include the Air Force. If you use USAF, it's a 4-letter agency. I worked with all of these federal partners on a monthly basis to develop a plan. We had a 93-page plan put in place where we delineated what would happen at every single airport. We had customs and border. You see where I'm going. I'm not going to lay out my whole plan, but this is what we're looking for. When you get an example, when you get a story, make it a good one and be good at telling it with that situation, action, result format with lots of details. When you're in an interview and they say, ask you the question, you don't want to say, give a big long story about, so this is the problem and then my coworker sucked and he wouldn't do his job, so I had to do it for him and then we got the job done. I've actually heard that on a phase 2 interview and I was like, great, so it doesn't tell me anything. So you want to be able to be good at giving them minutiae of the things that you did as you're performing, problem solving, excelling, whatever the case may be. That is the phase 2. I spent a lot of time on that and I did it for a reason because I think that's where I can provide value to you, whether you come to be an FBI agent or whether it's anything else. I'm the interviewer. I've done hundreds of these interviews and this is what I want to hear. So hopefully you can take that for what you will. Once you pass that phase 2 test, you've passed all the tests. You get a conditional job offer. It was one of the happiest days. Again, with my age, I actually got it's called an envelope, and you had to open it and pull the paper out, and it actually said, congratulations, you've been offered a position with special agent. Now it comes as an email, of course. And so, yay, I'm gonna be an FBI agent. But, remember how I said there's all those things that you need to do? There's all those things that you gotta make sure you don't do, right? Thus begins your background investigation. Once you've passed all the tests, you then have to go through the background investigation. And this is where they see, how you've lived your life. So the good news is, you don't have to be perfect to be an FBI agent. You can have made some mistakes. There are mistakes that are disqualifiers, and you can imagine what some of those might be. Felonies, things like that. There are some mistakes that aren't disqualifiers. Drug use, limited drug use is not a disqualifier. So, if you are currently smoking weed, for example, or you have in the past, if you envision a career in this field, I would suggest you put a hard and fast stop to that. But it is not a disqualifier. A little time and space between certain performance, certain behaviors can be mitigated in these background processes. So just something to think about. When I'm in front of a crowd of college students, I like to throw out, there are certain things that you might not think could get you in trouble. One that's caused real problem for me is people giving away their prescription drugs like candy. If you have Oxycontin, oxycodone, whatever, don't give it away. That can be a disqualifier. That's actually considered drug distribution, even if you didn't sell it, right? So just be cautious with that. I know it's silly, I don't necessarily agree with some of these things, but I want you to be aware of that. Once you become an FBI agent, you get sent to the FBI, or once you get your final offer and everybody says yes, you're good to go, you get sent to the FBI Academy in Quantico, Virginia. I will discuss what that entails, but I'm going to pause for a second. Anything come up? Sir?
We have several students in the homeland program, Jeremy, who applied for the 3 Thursdays in March
Yes.
program.
Mm-hmm.
Are you in the selection committee there?
I am not, but I know the girl who is, so.
Let me follow up by
Please.
saying, this is my 15th year doing this,
Mhm.
Olympics.
Yeah.
So I do the backgrounds for the FBI.
Oh,
And I
fantastic.
do most of the honor interns.
Nice.
And I probably have done 15 IU students.
Mhm.
And I've never done a single VU student.
No kidding.
And they've met the GPA.
Okay.
Just for what it's worth, if you could sort of put VU
I will,
in
and
the
I
minds of people.
I absolutely will.
In
Yep.
Minneapolis.
Absolutely will. In fact, that's one of, I have some other roles, I won't get, the National Academy, I also help select who goes to that. And that's been one of my personal priorities, is the underserved colleges. I try to make that happen, or towns, I should say, for that. So yes, underserved colleges for sure. Thank you for that. Any other questions come up? Please don't be shy, honestly. You can't offend me. If you're an anti-government person, go for it, please.
I had a buddy that couldn't make it today, and he wanted me to ask you about HRTs. And
Yes.
what that is.
Sure. So HRT, the hostage rescue team. So every field office has a SWAT team. We are. I'll get there. We're a SWAT team. Everybody knows what that is, right? So we do everything in Indiana. Occasionally, we'll help neighboring states. I've gone as far as Oregon and Pennsylvania to help. The hostage rescue team. For me, it's a collateral duty. So I have my day job. I train 4 days a month SWAT, which is actually quite a bit considering it's only 20 work days. And then I have ops on top of that. So for example, we had 2 SWAT ops last week, one in Fort Wayne, one in Valpo. We had a SWAT op before that. We had 4 trainings training on top of that. But it is our collateral duty. The hostage rescue team is a full-time tactical team. So they live in Quantico, Virginia. They do everything you might imagine. They jump out of airplanes, helicopters, they fast rope onto ship decks, they take sniper shots against the Somali pirates, all those different things, and that's all they do. To be HRT, any agent can do it. There are a couple ways. If people were previously military, SEALs, Rangers, things like that, you can actually ask to be in this tactical recruiting program to kind of pipeline you to that. But any FBI agent, they put a canvas every year, says who wants to come out and try out for it. I could do that if I wanted. I'm not going to drag my 48-year-old rear end out to try out for a hostage rescue team, but anybody can do it. Please.
Is that the same with like the Joint Terrorism Task Force and like your buddy who was a sniper?
Sure.
Do you have to like apply for all of those, or do they choose you?
So the task force, and are we running out of time? I feel.
Can
Yeah,
answer a few more
we are,
questions.
Jeremy. They got a class, they're gonna leave you soon.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, so I'll keep this very quick. So the way it works is when you leave the academy, you're assigned your violation based on your experiences. So I was a combat veteran, Arabic-speaking interrogator. So I was assigned to the Joint Terrorism Task Force. For SWAT, you have to try out for it. So you get to your field office, you try out. There's a selection process, and then then you can make it or not make it. And HRT is the same way. Anything else?
I have one question.
Please.
Did you have any choice in being stationed in one place for 15, 16 years?
No, the way your initial assignment, the way it works, you get the academy, you rank where you'd like to go 1 through 56, and you go like this, right? Some people do really well. I did not. I got my 36th choice, which was Indianapolis, so thank you for that. But I got here and I loved it, so I stayed here for 16 years.
You said you didn't do well.
Yeah.
New York.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, no, I did great. That's the thing. It's a long story. I was just thrilled with Indianapolis, considering. But I stayed here. You don't have. If I wouldn't have had to stay. After 2, 3, 4 years, I could have transferred somewhere else. But I found a home here, so I've stayed. What else? And I'll stay. I'll hang out for a little bit after. If anybody doesn't have to run off to the
We
next one.
appreciate it.
Yeah, sure. Awesome.
On behalf of Beta Sigma Iota and the Homeland Security Program, we want to present this
Thank
certificate
you.
for you.
I appreciate that.
For talking to our students.
Awesome.
today.
Thanks so
Thank you,
much. I
Jeremy.
appreciate that. It's very kind of you. Thanks, Lord.